YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV and ArtAlien.tv. Check out the links in the description below to see this Gigapan and my other recent Gigapans. There's a link to them as well. Check out my website link, ArtAlien.tv. That will take you to hundreds of other things like this. These are not one-offs. There are hundreds of other examples of a lot of these things. Some there are 5, some there are 10, some there are 100, whatever. Depending on what you're talking about. But today, what we've got is this thing. Now, I'm going to show you this first, and then I'll show you where to look. Now, I spotted this thing on the ground here, and initially I thought it was just a rock, right? It wasn't until I uploaded this Gigapan that I noticed this, because it's not until you add the contrast and colour correct the image that these things come to life, okay? Because these images from the Perseverance rover are very pale and very yellow. And it's very hard to see anything. So you've got to add contrast in there to bring the shadows out, giving the objects actual shape. And here it is. Now, I looked at that and thought, well, is that a skull? And I thought, it can't possibly be a skull because it's got this line going through it here. You can see this line going through and there are parts going over it, right? Now, if I show you with the magnifier, let's go in a bit closer. You can see here, there's a nose. This is the maxilla here. Head comes round like this. And then we've got this kind of straight part going through the center of it here with other parts going over the top. I thought, what could that be? It's shaped like a skull and it's got like an eye there and one here. And a nose, and what looked like possible teeth as well, just here. If you look closely, you can just about make them out. Just here. You can see these gaps. Right? Now, if you get a clip of this, and then you really crank the contrast quite hard, this is what you get. Here, okay? That's the raw clip there. That's what it looks like raw. But you can still see those details in there. In the raw clip, you can see the nose, the maxilla there, and the head coming round, and this straight piece going through there, with these other parts going over the top, like this, right? But if you really crank the contrast, even more, like really severely crank it, this is what you get here. So we've got a raw image here, raw clip, that's been enhanced, and this has been really cranked. And there's also another version of it here, which is a bit bluer. Depends how you colour correct these things. There's the raw clip, and there's a negative there. Now let's look at this really cranked up one here. You can see those teeth now. When you really crank the contrast, these will pop out, right? There's the nose. There's the eye. And we can see what is an ear part here. And the skull comes round or over like this, the cranium, forehead and cranium, comes round to the back, and there's a part sticking out the back there, right? But you can see, if you look at my pointer, my cursor, you see this part goes through, it goes behind this bit, it comes along there, it goes behind these two parts, and carries on through to where the eye is here, right? So I thought to myself, it can't just be a normal skull because we have what look like metallic, mechanical parts, right? But I'll put loads of clips of these in at the end of the video as well, so you can really have a proper look. Use the magnifier, hover zoom magnifier on the Gigapan, because you can really see the detail, okay? And I've put this in for comparison. This is Terminator, one of them. And I just put it in for detail to show the mechanical parts and the mechanical kind of nature of this thing as a comparison, right? With these metal bars going through it, right? Motorized parts. Look at this. And you can see that in this one, which isn't enhanced much. You can see those parts. This bit goes behind this bit and this bit here, But you can see that better here, where I've really sharpened it and cranked the contrast. I've gone in really hard with it, just to bring it right out, because I don't think this is made of rock. I think this is metallic, or some kind of alloy maybe that we don't know about. You can see those details in there, and you can see this part where the ear would be, which is rounded here. And when you really crank the contrast, that comes out, okay? Just here. If you get too close, you can't see it. You've got to get just right, about there. And then you can see the detail, okay? And you can see all those details even more, in some ways, if you look at the negative clip I've got here. And I will put more negative clips, larger ones and stuff for you to look at the end of the video. Right? Look at that. You can see those parts going in and out of each other, interwoven. Now, that's not something you get on a normal rock. And it's not something you get on a normal skull. So this is not a normal skull, or what I would call a normal kind of cranial specimen, like I've shown many of before. But I have shown in the past what look like skulls with things coming out of them, out of the mouth, like mouthpieces, and often they're wearing helmets. Soldiers, dead soldiers, okay? And I've got a bunch of examples of those. I'll put some clips of those in at the end for you to have a look at, okay? But I've covered lots of stuff like this before, but this is one of the better examples that I've seen. And the other ones have mainly been found in Jezero Crater, which is a long way from here. It's about 2,500 miles from here, okay, from this particular area. And but there's lots of very similar things there. I've shown loads of them on my channel, including things like weaponry and possible vehicles and stuff lying on the ground, half buried. So there's that. And there's also this thing. Now, I've got a clip here from Rami Barilan, because he posted this the other day. And I'd actually spotted this as well. But his clip was far better than mine. This is a small skull with an elongated cranium that goes right up here. I'll use the magnifier for you. 2 eyes, a little nose, and some jagged teeth. And the bottom lip there. Upper lip there. It's eroded, it looks damaged, but it's still in one piece. You can see it's kind of cracked up here. Okay? And this is over here on the same level as the android or droid. There's the droid, right? Near the top. Just to the left is that skull that I just showed you. Now, it's not very dark in this one. I've got some much darker clips of it. You've really got to crank the darkness up on these images, and the contrast mainly, to make these things come out, because these images are stupidly pale and overexposed. And they seem to be getting more and more yellow and paler all the time for some reason. I actually think this is a deliberate ploy to hide the details on the ground of such things. It's the perfect way to hide stuff. Only people that can be bothered to take clips and add contrast will see anything, right? Now, I've done it all for you here. I've done the Gigapan. The Gigapan is still quite pale, but I've added quite a lot of contrast to this, about 50% or 40%. As you can see, the shadows are almost black. I always stop before the shadows go black, because sometimes you find things in the shadows, right? So it's not that dark, but it's about 40% darker than the original raw images, right? Then there was this thing. This is weird. I don't really understand what it is. It looks like it might be something. There's very weird kind of straight angular parts in here, here, and here. And there's what seems to be a hand with fingers underneath and a sleeve or something. Not sure about that. Not really sure what that is. Maybe part of a statue or some jumbled parts of something that are encrusted together in the mud. There was probably a tsunami in this area in the past. There was a nuclear war on Mars, which explains why there's dead soldiers all over the place and remains blown to smithereens and fragments, architectural fragments blown to smithereens. and smashed up. But on the ground, we get to see things like this as well. Okay. So I think there were survivors. There's possibly people living underground now. And I don't think there are very many, but there could be. We don't know. Then there was this. Now, this is one that I spotted last night, and I literally only just put it up on here. And this is just here. Now, this is what seems to be a fossilized cranium or head of a Martian. And you can see it here. Now, if you look really carefully, use the magnifier, go back a bit, use the magnifier. Let's go in a little bit, actually. Look at this thing. We've got an eye here. We have a large snout or nose. We have a mouth here, like a V-shaped upturned mouth. A small chin. A large cranium that goes right back here. But what's interesting is you've got an ear just here. That dark thing there, I think, is an ear. But there's also a cranial ridge. Now, either there's a cranial ridge here or there's another thing behind it. But I think that's actually joined, because when I enhanced it, I've got an enhancement here. You can see it that's joined. And what I did with this one, I don't normally do this, but it's a bit hard to see this thing. I actually found this by accident. I was actually looking at this rather strangely coloured object here, which when I enhanced the colour on it really jumped out. I mean, you can even see it pretty clearly in the Gigapan here. It's got a bright colour, sort of vivid colour. This orangey red colour here and blue. And when you crank the contrast even more, that really jumps out. And it's quite unusual. We don't often see this sort of colour, right? And then I noticed this thing. And it took me a while to figure it out, but you can see here, there's nostrils, a big nose, a mouth, a chin, and there's an eye here. There's eye detail. You can see an upper lid, lower lid, right? This is fossilised, mineralised and fossilised. There's the ear, which is rather an odd shape. There's an ear hole there. And the skull comes back like this, but I think what this part is on top is possibly a cranial ridge. Now, we don't have cranial ridges, but our ancient so-called ancestors on Earth did, like members of the ape family, have cranial ridges. Like it's like a crest on top of the skull, which protects the head. And you can actually see the line here. So the rounded part of the skull's here, and then there's this ridge on top here, right? Absolutely insane. So this is not human. And look at the nose. The nose is very different from a human nose. It's rather strange. Let's go back a bit. If you get too close, you can't see it very well. Look at the shape here. Look at the nose. You've got a nostril here. There's the upturned mouth and chin. There's the ear. And there's the eye. I'll just outline them very basically to make it as obvious as I can for you to see what I'm seeing, okay? There's the raw clip. Now, you wouldn't actually spot that in the raw image at all. It's not until you enhance these that these things come out. But all those details are there. You can see the upturned mouth, you can see the nostril, you can see that eye and the ear and the head coming round here. You can see it, but it's very hard to see, and it takes a while for your eyes to adjust. So basically, that is it. That is a fossilised, mineralised Martian head, unlike others I've seen, but with some very interesting details. The nose shape itself is very odd, and the ear shape is very strange. I mean, I picked out part of the ear shape here, but I think it comes right to there. It's very strange, right? The eye looks fairly normal, but look at the nose. This kind of weird snout-like nose, and huge nostril. You can see the nostril here. A lot of the Martians a lot of the Martian remains I've found so far, not only are there what look like humanoid soldiers or android-looking skulls, some of them have exoskeletons, so that may be what we're seeing here. But I've also found loads of ape skulls of various sizes and shapes and different species. Some look like gorillas, some look more like baboons, some look more like orangutans, and some look more like smaller apes, even chimpanzees and stuff like that. Some of them look like, they're not the same, but they've got a cranial ridge like this guy has, right? They've got this cranial ridge. So this is a sort of proto-human, I would say, with a very weird looking snout here, which comes straight down like that. There it is. Now I'm just going to briefly show you some of the stuff from my last video, which was a very short clips video, and it was called Exposed Burial, and I just thought I'd quickly show you this now whilst I'm doing this to show you what they are, and this is where they are, right? We've got what they're calling the mini Kodiak here. This is what NASA call it, right? Some weird fragments on it, but nothing that outlandish. And then over here, this was so long I had to do it in 2 sections, right? Over here, we got the slope going up with not much on it, which goes right up here. And then there's another kind of slope in the background, like a ridge going along. And at the top of that ridge, we've got here a burial here. And overlooking that, just to the right, is this weird thing here. This kind of long structure. There's a weird thing here with a structure there, the sort of long part. And there's what seems to be some kind of weird gargoyle-like creature on the end here. There's the chin. There's the eye. Not much of a nose, but you can see these jagged teeth. Now, this may be partly an optical trick. I don't know. It's a long way off. I would say it's about 100, 150 feet away, 100 meters maybe, I don't know. But for it to show up at that distance, this must be really large. This must be like 3 to 6 feet tall. Who knows? And then we have this thing right by it. So it's overlooking this ridge. And right on top of the ridge, we have a burial, an exposed burial. Now, this was probably piled up with rocks and may have had a little structure over it, which is eroded away and fallen down. I don't know. But we seem to have a skull here, a burial that's been exposed. And when you look at the actual clips I've done, you can see a bit more detail. This is also a long way off. So this has to be big for it to even show up. I estimate this to be over a foot long, this skull. It could be as much as 2. I don't know. But it's big. Way bigger than the human skull, which average around between 7 and 9 inches, right? So it's a lot bigger. Could be double, could be 3 times. I don't know. But you can see here, if I go back a bit, use the magnifier. You can see the teeth there. You can see a nose sticking out. You can see an eye just there. The head comes around and it's resting on this kind of rock here. Like a cushion, almost. Right? And then it wasn't until I flipped it round that I realised that this may be an arm here. And this may be a hand. You can see like finger detail in here. I go back a bit. You can see these details here. This actually may be a fossilised burial shroud with the body inside, right? Maybe a body inside this, and it may be wrapped up in material, like they do in places like Chile and Peru, what they used to. The ancient people of Nazca, they'd wrap you up in a shroud, and tightly in a shroud, and then just stick you in a pit. But what I think this may be is a fossilised burial with the body here, and we're seeing what seems to be an arm coming down with possible finger detail in here. You can see complex detail. But this actually may be woven right? It's mineralized, fossilized. Who knows? But you can see that when it's up this way, you can actually see that head quite well, the skull. You can see those jagged teeth, you can see the big chin, nose, elongated head, which looks a bit flattened. You can even see what looks like an ear with an earring here. Just there. Interesting, right? And there seems to be some kind of detail here. I can't quite make it out. It may just be a rock that was used to cover it or something, I don't know. Part of the burial, I don't know. But it seems to have detail in there that may mean something, right? Okay, so check it out. Let's have a quick look at this now before we go. I'll just show you that these things are there. There's the eye. Nose. Teeth. Right. The head comes out like this. Things sticking out in the back here. Maybe something behind it with a shadow, don't know. We have the ear part here. This part in front. And this kind of part comes from here and it goes into there. And then behind this part, then it comes out here, then it goes behind this part, and then it goes into there, then it comes to here. You can't see it very well until you look at this version here. You can actually see that better in the cranked up version. You can see the eye a lot better. There's an inner part there, the nose better. You can see those teeth there. But this part coming through goes behind this part, comes through here. It seems to go behind this bit as well. It goes around like that. So there's kind of interlocking, kind of levered-like structures going through it, right? It's not just erosion. This would probably look a lot more like this if it wasn't eroded and hadn't been there for maybe 1 million years or 500,000 years, right? So check this out, look at it yourself. Use your own eyes, believe your eyes and not the lies, okay? Because NASA, actually they don't really lie, they just don't say anything about these things. They just don't acknowledge them at all. So there we are. And incidentally, this other thing, I mean, this is just insane. You can see like all the wrinkles are in the right place as well. There's got wrinkles up here. There's one there, one there, one there on the forehead. There's that cranial ridge here. This is the ridge at the top. You've got wrinkles where they ought to be on the face, coming from by the eye there and up here. You've got wrinkles in here, it's all kind of shriveled on the nose and under the chin here. We've got detail. All the wrinkles are in the right place for it to be a humanoid type person. All right? There it is. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe. Like I said, check out all the clips coming up in a second. Check out the links in the description below. Check out my website. Check out the previous video that I showed you part of here. There's some crazy stuff in these Gigapans, this one especially. And I did a double one here because I couldn't fit it all together. So I did the sort of bottom part and then the top part there. So a lot of these things appear twice. And it's crazy, absolutely insane. There's some crazy, crazy stuff in here. And I don't fully understand what all of it is. A lot of it's just rocks, as usual. But we have these long, straight rows of so-called rocks in rows here. Why would that be? Why are they in rows? More coming on that later, okay, on the causeway. Because I've got some new Gigapans showing how long it is. It goes on and on and on. And it looks like a long set of roads and buildings in the ground, okay? So I'll be doing more on that in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please give the thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon.